Barbados among the countries to benefit from $1.5 billion from the African Export-Import Bank. Another $200 million tranche of Boss Plus bonds to be made available by weekend. We'll tell you the time frame and the interest rate. Barbados proposes first job programs for young people in Latin America and the Caribbean. Hear the Labour Minister make the case. And in sports, Chelsea Tuach wins gold at the CAC Games.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. Several major announcements were made by Prime Minister Mia Amor-Mottley this evening as she updated the country regarding a number of important events she attended during a recent trip to France, China, England and Africa. Well, joining us live now to share some of that important information is our Wendy Burke. Wendy, good evening.
Good evening to you, Pearson. Well, among the significant announcements from the Prime Minister is that the African Export-Import Bank is making $1.5 billion available to finance public and private sector projects in Barbados and the region. She says the bank will formally open on August 4th and the money will provide technical assistance.
The other major benefit that we have worked out, there will be a pilot scheme to be able to facilitate our use of the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, PAPS, which is a huge benefit if it works. And let me explain why. Many of you may remember the CARICOM Multilateral Clearing Facility. And I say many of you and then maybe change my mind because I now remember how much gray hair I have and how some of us in this room have balded. The truth is that that was in vogue in the early 90s. And you will recall that it came to a stop when one country could not settle its debts with Barbados, which were eventually settled about 7-8 years ago. So it took a long time for it to happen. These payment schemes invariably require some kind of underpinning, backstopping. And the African Exim Bank is prepared to provide that backstopping as they do in Africa at the moment, at this point in time.
Prime Minister Mottley also revealed that Barbados is getting a major gift from China. It is that of a spanking new national stadium.
We complete any studies and then we start the work of construction on a new national stadium. And this, as you know, is a grant to the people of Barbados that we've negotiated. It is not a loan, and this is substantively appreciated because why? We are also financing so many other different things that are crises that we have to deal with, and therefore it would have been difficult. We could have done it, but it would be difficult to do it. And we therefore are grateful to the government and people of China for agreeing that this is to be a major gift to the people and government of Barbados.
Prime Minister Mottley revealed what the stadium will look like. And the Prime Minister also indicated that Barbados...
The design has had significant thought, and that is effectively what the new stadium will look like. They took the, Dante, just help me here so I can turn the pages, please. They took the design of the trajectory of the flying fish, and you'll see that soon somewhere. They make sure that it aligns with our mission economy. And they took a seashell. So between the flying fish and the seashell, you will know, see? You see the shape of the roof, and you will note that the seashell as well is also reflected in that. And they also looked at the use of arch colonnade in the Parliament and the other buildings in the World Heritage District of Bridgetown.
And the Prime Minister also indicated that Barbados will host a major logistics conference next year.
We have been a little delinquent in not meeting earlier with the UNCTAD Secretariat, United Nations Conference for Trade and Development Secretariat. We are at the point where we're coming up to halfway, and indeed next year we have agreed that as a follow-up to our being president of UNCTAD, that we will host a global supplies chain forum in Barbados in order to allow countries like ourselves, developing countries, to better understand how the supplies chain framework will be reformatted and reshaped in a way that helps us better as countries.
We also heard that Barbados will join its CARICOM neighbors in celebrating the 50th anniversary of the regional grouping with a public holiday. Next Tuesday marks 50 years since the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas, establishing the now 15-member CARICOM.
We have today as a cabinet chosen, and we have consulted with the social partnership and indicated our preference to them, that as a one-off, that Barbados will celebrate 50 years of the Caribbean community on the 31st of July as a national public holiday on the eve of the 1st of August, which remains still sacrosanct for us as a former slave society as Emancipation Day. And to that extent, therefore, we felt that to do it on July 4th would have been a little too early.
Prime Minister Motley also outlined what would happen that day.
On that day, we will announce all of the things. There will be a concert on the night of July 31st. What we didn't want to do was to offset anyone who was already announced something, and therefore I have paused and asked the Ministry of Culture to advise us as to what else there is on that day. But Barbados will have a regional CARICOM celebration on the night of July 31st. In addition to that, I've asked them to have CBC, and I will ask the other media houses to start to have each weekend during the month of July something that will reinforce and reflect moments of the last 50 years in the integration movement.
Well, Pearson, those are some of the major announcements from the Prime Minister this evening. I'm sure we'll hear more about these and other information coming out of her recent travel in the days ahead.
Wendy, thank you so much for your summary of the Prime Minister's press conference. In other news tonight, amid concerns from the youth who are not being afforded job opportunities owing to a lack of experience, Barbados Minister of Labour Colin Jordan has proposed the need for countries in Latin America and the Caribbean to invest in first job programs for young people. The recommendation was put forward as Minister Jordan addressed the third regional seminar on social development hosted by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. The hybrid meeting was held under the theme Promoting Labour Inclusion as a way to overcome inequalities and informality in Latin America and the Caribbean.
First job programs, apprenticeship schemes, the ILO just a week and a half ago, adopted an apprenticeship standard, a recommendation, because it is recognized that in order for many young people to get into the job market, they need to have some kind of experience. In my country, young people say all the time that whenever they apply for a job, they're asked, how much experience do you have? And their complaint is, nobody's ever given me a job. So how am I able to get any kind of experience? So first job programs and apprenticeship programs are going to be critical in order to allow young people to access the world of work.
Barbados views labour inclusion and reducing inequalities as key for countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And while acknowledging that countries share similar challenges when it comes to labour and inequality, the minister says the matter has to be tackled.
It's not something we can pay lip service to. We are judged based on economic development, economic growth, and how people are benefiting from that economic development and economic growth. And so we cannot leave it to chance. It is something that we have to focus on and be very intentional about.
From the middle of next month, scores of teenagers will have the opportunity to get their feet wet in the world of work. It stems from the Building Future Change Champions program organized by the Barbados Association of Guidance Counselors. Chair of the Summer Experience Committee, Shernell Bell-Alexander, says the 6-week program aims to expose students to a range of sectors. Speaking at the launch this morning, she encouraged the participants to improve their social skills.
As you are placed in your summer work experience, I don't just want you to sit at your desk simply doing the task that was assigned. I want you to interact professionally with those in the workplace and offer yourself so you can do more. Gone are the days where qualifications alone would get you what you want. Those are important, and we encourage you to pursue them, but opportunities come from networking. Your generation knows a lot about linking computers so that they operate interactively. You too, as students, need to interact with others and exchange information. Develop your social and your professional contacts.
And Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw wants the young people to be bold, ready to adapt to changes and to embrace the opportunity.
Entering the workforce as a teenager can seem as a daunting and an exciting experience as you enter a realm of new responsibilities, expectations, and challenges. However, I encourage you not to underestimate the power you hold within yourselves to make a difference, not only within the organizations to which you may be assigned, but also in shaping the future of our nation.
We'll take a break here, but coming up, the annual Sarah Ann Gill Memorial Lecture focuses on the moral crisis engulfing the globe. Visiting cleric of the North American Mission Diocese of the Methodist Church Ghana, the Right Reverend Professor Emeritus Emmanuel Larty, says evidence of a global moral crisis is there and affects the world. He made the observation while delivering this annual Sarah Ann Gill Memorial Lecture at the Bethel Methodist Church. The topic was societal moral dis-ease, redeeming the concept of Ubuntu and re-engaging the conversation on morality. Examples highlighted included the Partygate scandal involving former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the impeachment of former US President Donald Trump, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He says the world today is characterized by a blatant lust for power and greed.
On the political, the social, the economic, and the personal fronts, it seems that nothing is off limits. Nothing is true, except that which the rich and powerful put out. The term fake news is now a politically brandished weapon to characterize whatever news the powerful do not like. Political leaders lend their support to whoever is able to rally their base to vote or fight for them, regardless of how untrue their opinions may be, how unscientific their sentiments, how ludicrous their claims, or how immoral and antisocial their injunctions.
Meanwhile, Superintendent of the James Street Speightstown Circuit, the Reverend Derek Richards, says societal values have worsened over the years and there's no better time than now to address the issue of morality. He says Barbados, the Caribbean and the world are suffering from an ailment of their moral systems that has affected every area of life in community.
Political, corporate, social, spiritual, and of course, personal. The symptoms of this ailment are apparent, numerous, and pervasive, and include widespread disrespect for each other, murder, rape, larceny, reckless driving, robbery, theft, and dishonesty, among others. The theme, therefore, calls us to create a space where we can have a frank and graceful conversation on morality in the public sphere.
An elderly man lost his life early this morning at a northern beach. The unresponsive body of 65-year-old Barrington Hines of Corbins Road, Ashton Hall, St. Peter, was discovered just after 6 this morning at the beach along Sand Street, Speightstown. The police in the Northern Division say a beachgoer saw the victim walk onto the beach and later noticed his body was face down in the water with his slippers floating next to it. A family member identified the body. The police are asking anyone who can provide information that can assist with their investigations to call the police emergency number 211, Crime Stoppers 1-800-8477, or the nearest police station. And the Barbados Police Service is also investigating the unnatural death of a 54-year-old female who was found hanging in the bedroom of her Heartland Road, Haynesville, St. James residence today. The police responded to the scene about 6:40 this morning. A medical doctor pronounced her dead at the scene.
Sports Night, brought to you with the compliments of Great Health Works, agents for Omega XL.
All right, time to have our first look at sports this evening. We're joined by Mark Seal. Mark, good evening.
Very good evening, Pearson. Some good news. Barbados have won their first gold medal at the ongoing 14th CAC Games in El Salvador as Chelsea Tuach won the women's shortboard final today in surfing. Tuach was clearly the best on the show with a score of 14.03. As second place, Havania Cabrero of Puerto Rico totaled 12.6. Tuach says she's proud to contribute to Barbados' success at the Games.
It was a very tough final today, but I kept fighting, kept believing, and got my waves right at the last 7 minutes of the heat. So I'm really proud. This is the first time surfing's in the CAC Games, and I loved feeling like a bigger part of a multi-sport Team Barbados, and glad to bring it home for you all, and thanks for all the support.
Now, that was the second medal for Barbados at the 2023 Games, following the bronze by Jabali Brady in boxing. Meanwhile, in other results in women's hockey, it was a tough day for Team Barbados as they drew their second Pool B game 1-1 against Puerto Rico. Now, it was just 3 minutes before the end of regulation time when Captain Ayania Wilson found the net in the 57th minute to earn Barbados the draw. The Barbados women now sit in second position in that Pool B behind the Dominican Republic. In swimming, Jack Kirby has qualified for tonight's final in the men's 50-meter freestyle as he was third in Heat 4 and 8th fastest overall in 23.37 seconds. Now, Daniel Treasure made it to the B final of the women's 200-meter backstroke as she was 10th fastest in the heats in 2 minutes 25.42 seconds. Louis Sebastian Weeks also made it to the B final of the men's 200 breaststroke after finishing 9th overall in 2 minutes 22.9. And in wrestling, Adrian Maynard didn't get out of the quarterfinals of the men's Greco-Roman 77-kilogram category as he lost to Emmanuel Benitez of Mexico 8-love. All Saints are the winners of today's Zone 1 in the Baiko 7-a-side primary school football competition. Playing at Mahaika Ground in Speightstown, All Saints won all 5 of their matches to top the zone with 15 points. They defeated St. Lucie 3-2, Gordon Greenwich 4-0, Half Moon Fort 2-0, and Roland Edwards 2-0, and Sealer 3-0. Now St. Lucie finished second to join All Saints in the round of 16 from that Zone 1. St. Lucie defeated Gordon Greenwich, Half Moon Fort, and Roland Edwards, while they drew with Sealer, and of course they lost to All Saints. The Barbados senior men's football team will get some much-needed match practice in the build-up to September's start of the 2023-2024 CONCACAF Nations League. That assurance from President of the Barbados Football Association, Randy Harris, who was a guest on this week's edition of Matchday Live from the 246. Barbados are in Group B of League B, which features Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic, and Montserrat. Each team will play every other team in their group, home and away, for a total of 6 matches per team. The group stage will be played during the official FIFA match windows in September, October, and November.
We have a number of matches coming up, and there are promoters who are willing to give Barbados an opportunity to play against higher ranked teams who are looking for competition. And we think that we will be able to showcase some matches in Barbados and give our team an opportunity to travel and play all.
So the breaking news here on Matchday Live is that you should have at least 2 more or 3 more friendlies within the coming months before September.
Yes, before the actual start of the Nations League.
Now that update comes on the heels of the cancelled June 18th historic friendly between Barbados and Honduras, which was to be played in Louisiana, USA. Poor pitch conditions were cited as the main reasons for the decision, but President Harris says that that was only one part of the problem, which included issues with accommodation and travel.
The truth is that we both experienced some problems with travel and with the hotel. I don't think the promoter was really ready to, have the 2 teams on show because in a number of areas they fell down. I think the field was the final straw, but it was not the only reason why the match Honduras decided not to play. Now, you must remember that Honduras was on their way to the Gold Cup. The national team featured all professional players who were released from their clubs under certain conditions. They are well insured, and of course, the conditions will have to be up to standard.
It will be a battle of the colleges in the final of the National Sports Council's Under-16 basketball tournament. Queen's College will play Harrison College after they registered contrasting victories in the semi-finals last evening at the Wildy Gym. CBC's Damian Best reports.
Semi-finals day in secondary schools basketball. Harrison College up against Christchurch Foundation. Wildy Gym, the venue. Foundation on the hustle. The tall lad, Jaden Gittins, a little Euro step to the cup. Had 14 points in the game. HC's response, players trying to get an open look at the hoop. Short on the three-pointer. Great save. David Humphrey compliments the effort with 2. 29-16 lead then for HC at halftime. A steal from active hands would see Stevenson Springer adding to that lead on the first possession of the third quarter. His overall contribution, 9 points. CCFS needing to ease the pressure. Went to their go-to player, spin move from Gittins, and he drills the deep 2. Nicely done. Game high 14 points. But what they needed was more stops on the defensive end. Dominic Garner registered 10 points. Getting the red carpet treatment here. Lays it up and in. No luck closing the gap as Foundation trailed 31-44 with HC changing gears. Garner draws contact in traffic, bucket and the fall. 3-point play. The supporters loving it. 44-31 then. Let's head to the fourth now. Gittins left alone for a second from downtown money. College answer via Kobe Haynes. Right place, right time with the putback. HC dominated the paint down the stretch. Attempted 2-pointer or pass. Doesn't matter. Springer is there to count it. No turning back as Harrison College eventually defeat Christchurch Foundation 55-48 to book a spot in the finals. In the second semi, Zachary Haynes poured in 16 points. Tyler Ford 15 and Chase Belgrave 12 as Queen's College, wearing the red, crushed Commermere 75-30 after leading 57-25 at halftime.
The Business Report, brought to you with the compliments of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Well, in business tonight, another $200 million tranche of Boss Plus bonds will be made available to investors from Saturday, July the 1st. The 5-year security issued by the Central Bank of Barbados pays 4.5% interest per annum. The Central Bank's Director of Banking and Investments, Julia Weeks, says the initial series of BOSS Plus bonds proved that there is an appetite for investment among Barbadians. She says they have made a second tranche available for those who haven't invested as yet, as well as for those who have but want to acquire more. In April, CIBC First Caribbean Barbados National Bank, largest bank, invested $100 million in the bonds, and the Central Bank's quarterly economic press release later that month noted that in March 2023, individual investors had taken up $22 million of the security. The terms of the new series remain the same as for the previous one. The minimum investment is $500 and interest will be paid twice a year. Investors still have the option to cash in after 24 months. BOSS Plus bonds are protected from debt restructuring. Well, land tax defaulters have been going into the Barbados Revenue Authority to clear their arrears. Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, speaking on the sidelines of the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries Breakfast Business Forum, told the media that correspondence was sent to people in arrears for over 10 years and many have come forward.
A lot of people have actually come in, and I have, the last time I checked, there was about 150 odd that I had to approve. So we are well over. The last time I checked, we are well over 1,200 persons have actually come in and started making payments.
Minister Strawn also spoke about those properties which faced the auctioneer's gavel.
For those persons that you saw the auctions recently, it meant that clearly they had no capacity to either respond to properties, and then obviously you have people with disputes in their families and those types of things. So the important message is that obviously we want to ensure that people remain compliant, and so therefore we made it as easy as possible for people to come in, make the payment arrangements. COVID notwithstanding, we reassessed those that were in place before COVID, because we would accept that things were a little stressed during COVID to enter into new arrangements. So I'm happy with the public's response to the land tax drive, if you like, to recover those payments. Regrettably, some people were not in a position to settle, and therefore BRA had to take the next step.
That's our time tonight. Thank you for spending yours with us. I'm Pearson Bowen. For the crew, to all of you, good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for visiting us. Now, if you want to see more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can always go to cbc.bb for the latest news and current affairs.